What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you come into the channel. Check out the content. And with that being said, man, I want to speak on this situation that's going on with the WNBA, and it seems like every day something new come out, and it just to let you know that to prove that that there is a divide. Like certain players in the WNBA don't really they're acting on their own behalf. They're not really acting on like what's best for the league. And I can see why, and now that makes me see why and understand why like Caitlin Clark is really not she didn't participate in what is it called? Unrivaled last year. She is not participating or playing with Unrivaled this year. And she really kind of like staying on the sideline as far as like getting involved in this collective bargaining agreement. And it's a wise decision in my opinion because you have so many different players, you know, who are not really doing the right things or acting like I said in the best interest of the whole league. It seems like they're looking to set themselves up to benefit from whatever happens with this collective bargaining agreement. And I already talked about like how Nafisa Collier and Brianna Stewart, I just thought it was a conflict of interest for them to represent the WNBA players and also be part owners in the unrivaled league, right? And I thought that was it is, in my opinion, a conflict of interest. But then I see another post with Neka Ngumage, right? And she is basically in this post is basically saying that she is promoting this other league, right? What is it called? It's called a Project B League, right? And that's the European league that is going to be competing with the WNBA. So when you have players doing stuff like that and making those kind of moves, really supporting another league, a league that's going to be competing with the WNBA, it's not a good look. You know, she's one of the Aneka Ngumige is also considered like somebody with influence and representing the WNBA, right? And I think she's like 35 years old. So you got to take that into account too. So she's 35 years old and she'll be out the league in probably another couple years or so. So she's probably not really considering anything but just trying to set herself up, for her career after she plays basketball. Her sister is already a commentator with ESPN, with ESPN, as far as talking about basketball and stuff like that. So for Nneka Ogumage to promote another league that is going to be competing with the WNBA. Again, I think that is also a conflict of interest, and it's not a good look. It's not a good look. That's and what's going to happen is, and I already said this, right? There was definitely already going to be a divide when you think about players who are in the league who don't make as much money as uh Brianna Stewart, Nafisa Collier, and Nneka Ngumage. Some of these players living from check to check, right? And so that right there would have been something that people at the top would have to consider about people, like financially, like what is your financial situation going to be? Are you going to be able to hold out, you know, if we have to go to strike or if there's a lockout? Those are the kind of things that I think that WNBA players should have been bracing themselves for because everybody's financial situation is not the same. But it don't look, like you don't hear about that and it don't look like that. It just looks like people at the top of the WNBA, as far as the players are concerned, look like they're just setting themselves up for their next move, like how they're going to get their next bag. And so what's going to happen when you have a divide like that, the WNBA, like, and the NBA is going to set it up so whereas though players in the WNBA, I don't think they're going to get what they think they really, what they think they deserve. I don't think so. Because as long as you can see a divide in them, all you have to do, worst case scenario, is do a lockout. And if you do a lockout with the WNBA, and it's looking more and more, in my opinion, like the WNBA has more leverage. And if you do a lockout, like I said, some players in the WNBA are going to break that lockout because they can't afford it. And then the young ladies at the top, they, I think, are going to lose out also, because I don't think that I don't think this Project B League is going to be able to compete with the WNBA. Like, if the WNBA really wants to start paying players, they can pay them just enough where as though they can take the best players from all over the world, come to the WNBA, and so that will render that other league, it'll just, they'll be useless. Because players from here don't want to go over there anyway. But the players over there will come here because it's more benefit. If there's better pay and better living conditions, then yeah, you can get those players, just like in the NBA, right? You have guys coming from all over the world to play in the NBA because the money is better, and there's a lot better living conditions than, not every country over there, but a lot of those countries, so they live better over here and they can make money. So the WNBA is in a position where they can do that. And especially if like I said, if they give these young ladies the raise that they want, then they can just give them just enough where as though they live better and they get paid more. Then they can expand the league, and there'll be more positions. Now, this Project B League is not going to be as big as the WNBA. I think they probably only have probably about half the players that the WNBA have. So the WNBA, I think, have like 13 teams now. And I think that's about 140 players. Let's say it's 140 players, right, in the WNBA. They're not even going to have that amount of players in this league, this Project B League over there. They're going to have about half of that, like about 60 to 70 players. So, and I don't know if they really thinking this thing through. If I'm Nneka Ngumige, or if I'm Nafisa Kalia, Breonna Stewart, especially Breonna Stewart and Nafisa, because they still have some years left in the WNBA. Nneka Ngumige, I think she probably only have about two years, in my opinion. She already 35. She probably only have like a couple years left, right? So, they got to really think about the future. I think their only option, in my opinion, is really to make this WNBA thing work and to get and get money, as much money out of the WNBA as they can. But I don't think the WNBA is really fazed by these young ladies and what they're doing, because they see fractures already. Like I said, in that in their union and in their group, they see fractures, and they already know that there's going to be fractures anyway once you go to strike, because these ladies cannot afford that. So, and then you have Caitlin Clark, who's just standing on the sidelines, not really committing to nobody, not really committing to the players union, or she's not really committing to the WNBA. She's just staying out of it, which I don't blame her, because if you want to stick by the players, if you're Caitlin Clark, because those are your peers, right? But when you see some of the things that they're doing, and how they're moving, it's just not, I think it's wiser for her just to go ahead and work out, get healthy, and get ready for the season. Either way, I think only the top players in the league are really probably going to benefit from what's coming from this. Then on top of that, like I said, what's going to happen is this situation with Nafisa Kalia and Breonna Stewart, and also maybe Nneka Ngumige, like, they're not going to be able to be current players and then at the same time have ownership in other leagues. They're not going to be able to do that. I think part of the negotiation is going to they're going to rule that out. They don't want that, you could be because it's a conflict of interest. You're playing basketball in one league, but you own another league. They're not going to allow players, just like you can't do it in the NBA. They're not going to allow them to do it in the WNBA. But I wish these young ladies get it all together, man, as far as like being on one accord. Because if they're not on one accord, the WNBA and the NBA is really going to take advantage of that. And, they're going to, I don't know, they're just going to, these girls not going to get what they think they deserve. Then in a few more years, they're going to be ready to go out on strike again and not going to be happy. But it's so many players out there that they can be replaced with. That's another thing that they got to consider too, around the world. Because the WNBA only have like 140 players, maybe 140 something players. You got 140 something players in the WNBA, but you have thousands of women all over the world, you know. So yeah, they playing this situation all wrong. So that's my take on it. Y'all make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Also, don't forget to leave a comment, and I'll check you all out in the next video. Peace.